Welcome to Positive Philter with your host, Philip Wilkerson, a podcast that focuses on friends, family, health, and career, with a little self-help along the way. Please join me in this journey for self-improvement, and I hope what I have to share will make you a better person, thus making the world a better place. I hope you enjoy the show. I hope you enjoy the show.
Right.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's Philip Wilkerson back with another episode of Positive Philter. I'm joined by a special guest. Well, everyone is a special guest. I'm joined by my middle school teacher. I had to make that very specific as my age has gone.
That's right.
My memory has changed and where I met this wonderful teacher. Also a teacher of history, which is kind of ironic because he was my middle school history teacher and that was my subject in college. So maybe awesome. He subconsciously had an influence on me studying history. But I am joined by Mr. Jerry Stayton. And now I'll let you give, you come a long way from a middle school teacher. So
thank you.
I'll let you give a little bit of introduction of yourself for the listeners.
Sure. Well, thank you, Mr. Wilkerson, Philip Wilkerson.
Yeah,
it's funny. Great. It's such a joy to see students take off like you have and really look to affect the world in positive ways. And so it makes my life very meaningful. You know, it does. I'm not going to say that, I haven't advanced in stature because I think teachers are the best people in the world. I do. But my role has changed over the years. I'm now more of a school administrator now. And so I find my joy kind of in bringing new teachers in and hooking them up in the right place and watching that dynamic between kids and teachers grow and trying to make the best schools that I can. I mean, we really have to invest in our kids and I'm not doing it directly, but I'm doing it. I work like twice as hard now doing it indirectly, trying to make sure those teachers are doing their best. And times have changed. Times have changed a lot, but still, kids still look to their teachers. Teachers still can do so much at whatever level they're at, whether it's junior high, elementary, and anything else. So I love the education world, and I am blessed to be at the age that I am, that I have students that are now all over the place doing all kinds of things. And it's cool. It's just a cool thing to be here.
And it's very interesting too, because I remember I had a teacher, Mark Holbrook, and he wanted to influence us. We were all in the all black male class, and he was a role model for us. And I think he was like, I wanted you guys to be CEOs and all this stuff. And then half of us ended up as educators. And he was like, why'd y'all do that? And I was like, because you influenced us,
Right.
And so it's just very interesting. A lot of I don't know how, but I gravitated myself to education. And I think that's just similar to what you said it's the way I feel like I'm giving back,
Yeah. Well, and I think it's a real specific gift set. I really do. I think it's an interesting balance. The best teachers are they're drawn toward people. They're people persons. That's what they are. They also have a little flair for some data and a little flair for some research and a little flair for lots of different things. Yeah. Not a huge flair. That's not their life. But really, they what keeps them up at night is how can I get Philip to focus tomorrow? That keeps you up at night. And so I think it's a calling. I think it's a gift. I think it's a gift that people have, and it's unusual. But I'm glad you're in the education.
Well, that's funny because you said, how do I keep Philip's attention? Man, I think you probably can still use that now. But also I think it's the combination of learning. I like to learn, and then you pass on that learning. It's like right. You can continuously be curious as an educator because you want to learn something new so that you could teach it, and then you got to think of a way to convey it. So communication is super, how do I convey this information I learned that is individualized to different learning styles?
Right. I don't see anything for myself. Like when I know a sermon is good when I want to re-preach it somewhere else.
Yeah. I agree
that's how educators are. I know that it's good when I want to give it out to someone else and all that. So anyway, no, it's a pleasure to be here. And I'm honored. I really am honored and thrilled to still have this connection with you. It really means a lot to me. So,
well, we're going to talk about positivity and just in that general, but I wanted to kind of share, I'm going to surprise you, but I wanted to share a story. I remember you reached out to me, particularly way before COVID, like years ago, actually. And you said, Philip, something just called me. I was thinking about you and I'm praying for you. And
yeah, I remember that. It was like 3 years ago.
Yeah, and I remember specifically, I was like, that's weird. Like, honestly, that was weird. But now I want to say on wax, on record, how much I appreciated that, because now that I'm in this COVID-19 era and just kind of how I studied well-being, I realize how important human connection is. And I realize how important giving your flowers or checking in on people or saying you're thinking about people, whether it's through prayer or whether it's just positive thoughts. But, sometimes people don't hear that. Sometimes you can say, yo, Phil, I thought about you and I prayed about you and just kept it to yourself. But I think the world needs to hear, the thing is, one of the things I always hate is when people are like, man, I thought about you the other day. Well, did you hit me up?
And what were you thinking? Was it bad? Did you think bad things about me?
No, I thought about you. I was just wondering. I was like, yo, I'm like, mostly when I reach out to someone, they're like, I thought about you today. I was like, when you thought about me, you can hit me up. Why do I got to initiate?
Right. No, that's true.
So I don't know. I just wanted to randomly say that that's a good thing. And I think that kind of feeds into the positivity topic about, I think one of the parts for me in wellness is my connection with people. And particularly during this time of COVID-19, it's been real difficult to connect. And so I think the world needs a little bit more of, hey, I thought about you and I am sending prayers, or I am, regardless of religious affiliation, the act of praying for someone else, if a dude that was Islamic said he prayed for me, I'd take that just as much, because it's not just saying he's thinking about me, he's also intentionally wishing me well, or wishing me safety, or wishing me happy, wishing me good things. So, I take prayers. So when I'll take
me too. I'll take any kind of prayer I can get.
I'll take prayer. I'll take thoughts. I'll take anything. And then particularly, I don't think a lot of males say that too. I think about you. I'm hoping you're okay. So,
well, I don't want to be a selfish person. I look back at my time in Virginia when you were in my classroom, and Philip, to me, and May, this is me, that was a very special time in my life. I mean, I knew that you and Jeffron and Adrian and Albert Lawrence and Marcus, I knew you guys were going places. It was easy to see that. It was a unique gathering of people. And some of the girls too, some of the girls that I had in those classes were unbelievable in their ability. And it was a really unique time. And so I think about you guys all the time. And I think it's wrong for me just to keep that in my head. I think it's selfish for me to just keep enjoying it in my head and not reach out. And because I still do care. I still do see that as an important time in my life. And I do. I feel like I have to be a little less selfish in my life. And I've got to step over that thing and say, Phil, I'm thinking about you. I'm praying for you. I care deeply for you. I love you. And it's weird. Men don't say that very often, but I'm just like, okay, I'm just going to be weird because it's important. Yeah. And people need to hear it. People need to hear other people say it. And who gets offended when someone steps back in their life to say, man, I'm praying for you. I love you. Who can get offended at that?
They might get, and I was saying it's not normalized where I don't think they'd get offended. They get weirded out, but that
maybe they get weirded out.
But we need to unweird it out, like destigmatize that. Destigmatize positive affirmation.
Right. It wouldn't fit every time all the way. I mean, I did have a little bit of an ongoing connection with you. And so it wasn't just like I hadn't ever seen you and you weren't really a student I ever paid any attention to. No, I mean, we were a small school, so we were tight. Yeah. And so it made sense. Now, there might be some cases that doesn't make sense. If I look up some kid in some random yearbook from some big school where I was after that and just called him out of the blue and said, I love you, that might be a little creepy, right? So
But and also, on the flip side too, also in regards to the special time about people and people connection, is that I'm starting to see that on my side of people, as you said, that window of time where you're like, I could see even in a youth, and I say it with an F, I guess I need to work on my THs. But
you don't have to. I get it.
Even with that, you can see like, wow, there's something about these students. And I'm pretty sure my teacher, Mark Holbrook, felt the same way. It's very interesting to see that as you progress and you get older, and definitely that special window, because obviously it's special because we stayed in touch and Marcus and I stayed in touch. But let's jump into the topic about positivity in tough times. I think when we made this outline about 6 months ago, we did not predict that 2020 was going to be the year of putting our outline to the test.
Right. You're right. I mean, we have everything from COVIDs to George Floyd to all kinds of things that are challenging our ability to stay positive. They are.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, man, is that going to just sound super cheesy when I look back at this thing? And it doesn't, I mean, I look back before, getting on with you and everything here, I'm sticking to my guns, I mean, I may word it differently now if I had the chance, but, I do want to encourage people and I do want us to, I do want us to look for the positive that's out there. We desperately need it. And I think there is some positive that's out there. I do think there are Philip Wilkersons in the world and Adrian Fergusons in the world and people we can look at and see some things that are amazing. You do have things that, and we all go through hard seasons of life. But my brother-in-law says something that I've grabbed onto, and he often says, hard is hard, but hard is not bad. I try to remember that. Just because it's hard doesn't mean it's bad. And trying to stay positive, it is a mental discipline though. And that first thing I think I have here on our outline is staying positive is a mental discipline. Yeah. And that's where I think our faith is important, because that's ultimately what faith does for us is it reminds us of the right place and the value of our place.
Yeah. Wow. The value of our place. Can you expand on that? What does that mean? Like when you say value of our place, like value in sense of purpose, value in sense of our fit in the world. What do you mean by value of place?
Well, again, I'm going to speak from my bias, and that's Christianity. So I'll speak from that. But I think it applies to a couple other places. It is really important for me to understand that like there's so many things around me that I cannot control. I am not God. I cannot control everything. And if I could, I'd mess it up. And so in some ways I'm really small. In some ways I'm small. I'm a small piece of the universe. I am not everything. I am not the man, and I can't expect myself to do everything perfect every single time. So having faith does remind us that we're small, but it also reminds us that we're valued, that this is not just some weird exercise in chemistry that I happen to be living through, but there really is a purpose for life. There really is a meaning for life. And even if life is hard, there's still a purpose and there's still a meaning to it. And I can still use the time and the breath that I have in a way that helps people. And that makes a difference in all faith, as far as I'm concerned, there is that's a piece, that's a kind of a generalized piece that there is a reason for us to be here. And even when things are difficult, there is a reason, and we can get through the difficult times and find out why, So
I always found it very fascinating about going through hard times is that, especially in the moment, it sucks, hard times. But I don't know. I've always been able to look back and say, okay, I think that because of this, I was able to grow in some instance. I don't know. I think that's like a self-awareness or growing or learning a little bit, or my counseling program. But I think that's something I want to get better. I want to get better at the turnaround before as I've trained it, as you said, I think I can see the benefit faster, but it's still it's still very hard to see it. Like, oh, I made that mistake. I made that left turn. But now you say, if I didn't make that left turn, I would have met this person. But it still takes me a while to get that. And I don't know.
Well, but I'll tell you what, man, pain is the best teacher ever. Pain teaches us all kinds of things. But I think the best thing pain teaches us is it teaches us how to relate to people that are in pain. My parents divorced, when I was just getting married, and it was hard to go through that divorce. I was upset at my parents. I was mad at them for a long time. I had to go back and ask their forgiveness years later because I just was in a bad place. But man, I can't tell you how many kids I've sat across the desk from whose parents are going through a divorce. And I get to talk to them. I get to cry with them. I get to relate to them. I can explain things to them that they can't even put words to yet. And so that helps. I've worked through suicides, student suicides, parent suicides, all those things just help me. They give me a language that can help kids understand what they're going through a little better. And even adults can help them understand what they're going. My personal pain has deepened my compassion and my empathy, and that's huge. I mean, we so need much more compassion and empathy today.
Yeah.
And
And
so,
also,
yeah.
I think that you nailed it on the head, is about just the concept of a wounded healer, right? Like you want to heal people, but
Oh, right.
means that you also come with that. So you can empathize. And then also, I think what I heard is empathy is when you can put yourself in someone else's shoes. Compassion is empathy plus action. So that
Right.
you take that
That's
next
great.
step. You take that next step of saying, okay, I know what it feels like, but let me act on it. And you do a great job of that. So you have a couple of definitions of what positive is. What is positive? What is positive to you?
Well, yeah, I do. I'm hanging with this thing. I really think positive is choosing to see the circumstances as always changing.
Mm.
And that is ultimately a positive thing. I mean, I can remember when my adopted son was being taken away from us. And I remember holding his hand, like his hand would grab my pinky, right? He was tiny. He was 2 months old. And we were losing him. We were losing him to this teen woman who was at the time messed up. I mean, she was messed up in a lot of ways. And she was taking him and I had never been through pain like that in my life. The night before, in fact, my Facebook picture, I've had it since 2006. It was the last bath that we gave Dean before we had to give him away. And that's a painful picture, but it's a picture with promise, because had we not given him back to her, God changed her heart. I believe we prayed like crazy and her heart changed, and she turned around and she brought him back to us with no strings attached. And so we had a much better second version of that adoption, but we had to suffer through the pain on the front end.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to pray those 3 days. I had to pray and realize circumstances are changing. Anything can happen. And I can't let myself get lost in this darkness of pain that I feel, because tomorrow the sun will come up and things can change and they will be different.
What about the person? And
So it's choosing to see that things can change.
What about the person that says, when you're going through a tough time, and especially for African Americans or Black people, pray about it. And I was like, pray about it. That's not enough. So what do you say to someone about going through a tough time, staying positive and using prayer, but taking some agency? Like, what do you tell someone about that? Like, I want you to pray for, like you prayed for it, but also at the same time, like you still had to take a little bit of action, right?
Oh, of course I did. I mean, and I'm going to be real careful because I'm not a Black person. And my children were Black, and you is one of my, I still consider closest students, best friends here in this world is Black. So I have to be real careful, but I'm going to be real careful. I have been challenging my white friends because it's easy for us to watch TV and we feel empathy, but we don't use compassion. Mm-hmm. We feel this, man, I hate the fact that happened to George Floyd. Well, what are we going to do? I've made up my mind when all that happened, and I was angry. I was sick, and I didn't even know how I was going to keep relating. Jeff Brown broke my heart. He wrote me a text and said, Mr. Stayton, it's just clear. I will never be equal to you in this country, in this life. And I just was sick about that, because in God's eyes, I believe he totally is the same as me. There's no difference because of our skin color, but we live in this broken world. And so the compassion, I think, I have to be more proactive in my relationships. I think we have to be more proactive in our relationships. I think we have to kind of step through and lean into some of the fear. I think those white on Black conversations are huge, because we all have to work together to change this. It can't be just Black people trying to make things better for Black people. That's not going to work. And white people are going to do it the wrong way. Because so we have to, the active piece is building some relationships you might not normally build. And that's going to take time, effort, energy, and frustration. But those relationships, I think, ultimately are what's worth it.
Yeah. And I think, I'm trying to get at is that I've been kind of, especially within mental health, I don't know if this is an old school thing, but, I'm going through depression or anxiety. And then you got someone that's an older generation say, just pray about it. I'm like, come on, man, that don't help. That's not what I need to hear. And so I'm just curious to say how, in regards to a positive mindset, I believe prayer, meditation is one of it, but it's like, I feel like, don't just tell me to do that. I don't know if that makes sense. Like, don't just tell me to pray about it, because that's not going to do enough for me. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it totally does. And I do think so. Prayer ultimately is a change agent for our own hearts most of the time. But I do think there have to be feet. I do think, in terms specifically of racial reconciliation, we have to put feet to it with the relationships. But I also think in terms of when we're struggling with depression, when we're struggling with anxiety, we're struggling with those things, prayer is one element. But there are several foundational things that we have to watch. We have this body, our physical body. We have to take care of our physical body. We have to make sure we're doing that. We have to make sure we actually can control our thoughts. We can exercise ourselves and control our thoughts. I know when I'm slipping into negativity, and I know when I have to tell my wife, hey, dear, I just need some space. I'm just going to go walk the dog. I'm going to get outside. I'm going to do some things. So there's physical things we can do for our mindset. And we also, I think, have to be able to reach out and talk to people to get help. I think we have to be able to. I love the kind of the medical push. Talk to your doctor if you're feeling sad and depressed. Now I'm not sure how. I don't necessarily think people should run and grab prescriptions and medicines all the time. But I do think building a network of people that we can relate to helps us understand things and get out of our own head. And that improves our world. It does.
I love that, the fact that you spoke upon that this is a wellness is a team effort in regards to different pockets of wellness. And so, maybe someone needs a prescription medicine, but you can't also just rely on that either. You can't just take pills and say, okay, I'm cured. I'm cured. You got to practice physical health. It's I think you got to put the dream team in place. And I definitely believe prayer is part of it. So don't think that I'm no prayer.
Oh, no.
I was just thinking about the people that say that's it. That can't be just it, for me.
And I don't think, when I even look at some of my heroes in history and some of my heroes of the faith, none of them just sat around and prayed about it. They all may have prayed about it, but they're also heroes because of what they decided to do. What they decided to do. And man, there's kind of a curse in Scripture for people that say, "Oh, just be blessed and filled and go your way." No, you don't just get to say that. That's sort of like saying, "Oh, I'll just pray for you. Hope you're better." No, that's not the point. The point is, are we visiting people in jail? Are we feeding the hungry? Are we clothing the naked? Those are the people that God ultimately says in the Scripture He'll bless. And I do believe that there is prayer and there is action. And I mean, some of those actions, sadly for me, I've had to just realize are common sense. Okay, my body, I was struggling with a lot of different things physically and mentally. They were tied together, and I had to just suck it up and say, okay, I need to stink into yoga every day. That's just it. I just need to get over myself and play the stupid YouTube video and start stretching my body so I don't feel so rigid and messed up and I'm aching and I can't walk. It's stupid. My back hurts so bad, so I can't just pray about my sore back.
Yes.
God's that would be God stupid. Get up and do some yoga. So I had to get up and do some yoga, and that. What do you know? My back starts feeling better and I start moving better and it's like the sun comes out, so there are active pieces, but sadly a lot of them are common sense. I do think we black and white people just have to build better relationships, period. We just do. That's where it starts. That's the foundation is we should have our culture, and that's important, but part of that culture should be caring and embracing the other, and that's just a very basic step. And I live in a world that is both white and black on two sides. And I still, Philip, I see unbelievably regrettable ignorance in the white community. And I see things that break my heart. There's that every day that to a white person only in a white world make complete logic. But they're completely, Adrian said this post the other day, and I reposted it. He said, if all lives matter, we wouldn't be here. That was just a beautiful breakthrough. That was a beautiful breakthrough. And I was so glad I got to push that into my community from Adrian. Because to some person they say, well, why can't I just say all lives matter? Aren't I covering everyone with that? So I think just the basics of relationship and understanding. I don't have a lot of black friends. I don't really understand. Well, that's on you. Black people are out there. Black people are out there, or it can go any direction. I don't have I live here near Pechanga. And a dad came in. I didn't know any Pechanga people. I was new. And I pulled the dad in my office and said, I just need to know more about your people. And next thing I know, I'm sitting at this beautiful restaurant with a silver feather, and he's laying out the whole history of the Pechanga people. It was fantastic.
Yeah. And that's being also one of the things is you're being vulnerable to say, I don't know.
I don't know. Well, yeah.
And then, and I mean, I know sometimes it's half of it, because what I've noticed recently in regards to this is I'm getting allyship fatigue. And when I say allyship fatigue, like teach me, what can I do? Can I do this? Can I do that? I'm like, there's books. You can read some of this stuff yourself. Like,
nobody likes to read books so they can talk to you.
And I'm saying, like, you can do a little bit of the work, but at the same time, I can't be totally dismissive on the flip side, because it takes a lot of courage for someone to say, you know what, I do not know this, and I'm not comfortable not knowing. I need help. Let's talk. Like, it takes a lot for someone to admit they don't know something and be okay with saying I don't know something, and say, can you fill me in? Because it's also admitting that you're not right or something. And that takes a lot of vulnerability. So I like the combination. I appreciate you said that. Like, I asked dude about his culture. He filled me in. But then at the same time, at the next level, after someone fills you in about their culture, I think it's still the responsibility to say, okay, he gave me an intro to that culture, but it's on me to take course number 2 mentally. It's on me to read a book or read an article. It's on me to, do the work, do the mental work. So I love that. And I think that's similar to what you're doing with positivity. It's like, it's on you to do the mental work too. It's on you to not just say, I got this mind muscle. It's on me to do the mental work of putting in practice well-being techniques and talking to yourself positively. It's work. It's actual work.
Right. And Phil, I think part of our brokenness as people is we are drawn to negative. We're drawn to negative. And I mean, you look at our news thrives. It's funny. And I don't know if you know it's about history, but in like American history, the local evening news all through the 50s was generally always positive, like almost eerily so. Like, they wouldn't report things they should be that were negative. They were just always positive. And then all of a sudden everyone realized, hey, negativity is dramatic, and we can draw more of an audience. And that happened in political campaigning a long time ago. Negative campaigning wins, which is sad that now we vote more against someone than for someone.
I was saying that too. Like, yeah, right. Like, if you really look at it, like, do you actually analyze someone's policies for themselves, or listen to how trash the other person's candidacy is?
No kidding. And I actually do that. I actually posted last year, the last election, I posted the platforms of all the candidates I could find as much as I could, because I think we have to read those things, and the more we read those things, the more spooked out I get. I'm going to not try to make this political, but
we're drawn to negativity. Yeah. So,
and so knowing that that's our tendency, especially when we're tired, especially when we're afraid, especially when we're a little bit overworked or a little confused, our natural tendency is to negative. And so learning that I have to be deliberate about, I call it preaching to yourself. I got to be deliberate about like, I have to look at what God has done for me. That Facebook picture is a broken heart, my lowest point, but within 4 days, it was an unbelievable high point. And I still have that 18-year-old boy that helped me with these headphones tonight. That's Dean. He's still my son. And we have to put markers in our life that remind us of the things that have gone well, that have gone right. We do need reminders of our gifts and our gift sets. And we do need some of those things just to clarify, because we will get negative about ourselves. And our internal dialogue will become toxic. And I think that's something else that meditation and prayer and yoga and time for yourself, all those things do help you kind of clean out that toxicity that can come from kind of living with broken people and being overcritical of yourself.
Also, I think people are drawn to negative stuff because it makes them feel better about their situation.
Oh, that could be.
like you ever watch, I mean, I ain't gonna lie, you kind of like watching Jerry Springer and a train wreck, because you're like, at least I'm not, at least that's not like, I mean, I ain't gonna lie, I can even be honest with myself, man. Murray's crazy. That's just funny. It's trash.
Oh man,
it's trash. Yeah. It is trash. But
is.
I think we need to have that dialogue where we're drawn to positive, one, to talk to ourselves positively. But I've gotten better at doing, like, looking for positive, because I want to celebrate others and say, you know what, while I'm celebrating someone else, it does not make me lower. I think we have this instinct that,
oh my goodness,
when we celebrate someone else, it's taken away from us. Oh, we can't do that. Or I'm showing love to this person, and the jealousy comes up. Well, it's like, why can't I show you love and say,
Right.
I'm proud of you for doing big things, and I aspire to it too. Like, it motivates me, so.
I am so glad you said that. That is such a big door to open here, because there are people in this world that feel like if someone else is winning, I'm losing. And that's a huge problem. I worked with a guy at this school. I'm not going to say where it was.
Yep.
But he made our staff meetings toxic because he felt like if someone else got an attaboy from the boss, or if someone else had something that shined, he was losing. And then he and it was just ugly. And unfortunately, sadly, that particular individual took his life because he got in this downward spiral of all sorts of bad things beyond just that. But it was kind of frightening for all of us to see that play out. But some people, unfortunately, tend to be white, and all of us can be that way a little bit. All of us can be that way. Again, when we're tired, when we're hungry, someone else has a big plus. We're like, shut up, whatever we are. We get out of here. But again, I think it's a muscle we have to exercise the other way.
Yeah.
And to be able to laugh with those that laugh, rejoice with those that rejoice, weep with those that weep, honestly, I think is a skill that we have to develop. It's important.
I really try to work on flipping the switch from jealousy to admiration. And what I think of how I flip it is the qualities. Like if someone celebrates something else, I say things like, I admire that. What can I apply to myself? Can I get there myself? It's more like, instead of hating, I'm like motivated. I'm fueled by it. And so I really work extra hard to flip that switch. And when someone else gets a promotion or when someone else gets an award, I'm celebrating them just as much because I want to fuel that, you know what I'm saying? So, because you can definitely get in your head and say, when someone else is successful, the negative, like you said, the drawn to negative, I feel like it's easier. I feel like it's easier to hate on someone. It's easier to, automatically think cynical.
Right.
I do believe that it probably does come more naturally to people to be negative. It actually takes work. And I'm not saying being false. I like what you say, like in the outline, not cheesy, not false, not fake, not less authentic. But it is work because it is easier to believe. I definitely believe you. It is easier to sit in negativity and sit in it.
And unfortunately, I think our world, where we're at now, it sadly is like encouraging that, because I think there's money to be made off of gathering attention to negative things, and it's online, and it's sickening. And I've had to turn off the news. I've had to find other news sources. I've had to find ways because, and I've sadly watched it in my family. I've got some relatives that kind of sit all day now at the stage in their life, and they kind of watch a lot of news, and it's been hard to watch their attitude go with that. So it can be this downward spiral that we're negative, and so we're drawn to negative. We watch negative, we hear negative, we're more negative, but I think the same can be true for positivity. I think the same can be true for finding things that are praiseworthy. That's why I love working with kids. No one can be more excited about anything than junior high. Or sometimes high school. High school tends to get a little jaded sometimes, but junior high kids have a natural enthusiasm, and they can take anything and make it work, and I love that. And I think teachers can be that way when they're not tired. I love working with kids.
When you're not tired.
When they're not tired. People are that way about their kids. That's one area of their life. And if you want to find a quick way to relate to someone, compliment their kids. Compliment their kids, and all of a sudden you're their best friend.
There you go. Hey, he's giving you the tip. I mean,
that's a place to start.
What about the funny looking kids? No joke. I'm just joking. I'll just play. But
you can find something. You can find something. Yes. You can.
Yes. No, I'm just joking. But I've seen that. Like, you definitely can see the most hardened person, and you start talking about kids, and I mean, if they're really not hardened at the core, they lighten up a little bit, because everyone can get a little joy about talking about their kids and pulling out the phones and showing pictures of their kids. I definitely agree with you. That is definitely a people connector, as people take a lot of pride in their parenting and their kids.
Well, and so I've decided that, when their kid is going nuts in the grocery store, or on a plane. I'm not on a plane a lot, but when I am, there's always a kid going nuts. Or in a mall or someplace. You don't see malls that much these days, but but when their kid's going crazy, it's easy to be annoyed by the crying kid, and then you turn it and you get annoyed by how they're not parenting the way you think they should be. And I've had 7 kids. My kids cried in the grocery store. My kids struggled at different times. And so what I always do to that parent, I try to look at them with as much, I smile. I'm like, I get it, bro. It's a guy. Or I look at the mom and say, I get it. I get it. And then usually they are so relieved to know that you're not looking at them with condemnation. And it can be this great connection in a grocery store over a crying kid. Yeah. And then they tell you like, they didn't get their nap or they did whatever. I'm like, I remember. I get it. I absolutely get it.
No, I say to
I do it to the grocery baggers. I used to bag groceries when I was young. I say it to those guys when I have a large order. I go down and bag with them. I'm like, man, I bag groceries for years and I appreciate it. And it's weird. They look at me kind of funny. But, they're like, dude, this guy's helped me bag groceries, and it's this weird connection, and you use these past places in your life to connect with people. And the next thing you know, they're smiling at you, and they're not like just bagging the guy's groceries, they're like, you're talking about the life or something. And I think those little things are important. They are.
We must be, soulmates separated by many years, because I did that too. I worked at a grocery store, and I still do that too.
When you do that too?
Yeah, I definitely bag groceries and help out when I can and do it. Throw it in there, because I remember how that was when you had a crazy line. You're just like,
right.
Especially, dude. I help bag, especially at the end of a shift, when it's like, I know you were ready to leave and the doors closed at 10 o'clock, and I came up in here at 9:45.
Right.
I mean, that's the only time
with
I could
muddy boots on.
Yeah.
With muddy, stinking boots on, walking all through the store to find one thing.
So let me come and help you out. So I definitely get that feeling.
Well, I felt like that so I worked with guys older than me a lot in the factories and different places when I was young. And I always felt like that older generation would look at my inexperience and they were very just condescending. They were very condescending. They had been through the same crap I was going through. But instead of relating to me, instead of helping me, they almost enjoyed my failure, because I was a young kid working in this factory, and they almost enjoyed the failure. And I'm like, I am not going to be like that. I remember how that felt to be mocked and be laughed at for stupid mistakes, but they were stupid mistakes done in ignorance. Working in a place where I was just working in a factory maintenance. I had no idea what these guys did, and I had to learn from them, and they would typically let me fail and mock me and then show me how to do it like the way they would do it. And it just bred this toxicity in me. And so I've really decided that wherever I can do the opposite, wherever I can do something different, instead of be condescending, just get right down there and bag that grocery with that kid or work right alongside someone and be on that same level. Because again, I just don't think God sees us as all these different levels. I don't think God sees one person as more valuable than another. And so I'm wrong if I see things that way. I just really want to be in a place where I'm not condemning the next generation for not knowing what they can't possibly know. It's my job to be a teacher and show them, and in a way they can learn, and not in a way that's condescending. So.
When did you take this active switch, or not active switch because you've been like, but when did you take this active, I want to learn or practice yoga, or just infuse well-being into your life along with your religion, along with Christianity? Because like, obviously, you were a teacher at a Christian school, but it seems like even from knowing you and talking to you now, it seems like you put a lot of time and thought into this kind of thought process about positive thinking and well-being. Did you just kind of flip a switch, or
no,
or just overall started reading different literature, or what?
Well, I would like to say that I flipped a switch. I can't take credit. I think the main thing that has changed my life is my wife. My wife flipped a switch, and then God allowed us to adopt 5 kids and 2 foster kids, and so my wife and I were constantly in situations where we had to deal with things that we didn't understand and problems that we couldn't solve. And we had to figure our way through. And I'm not going to say we did it perfect, and we struggled. But I think in that context of struggle, both of us learned a lot. And, the whole yoga thing honestly came because I was tired of There was a laziness in my life. There was a laziness in my life that was hurting me, and I could see it. And it took me a while. It took me a while to see it. But now I'm like, I don't want to be that way anymore. And life is precious, and time is precious, and I still want to have an impact on people. And so, yeah, there's this whole thing that comes, when you have a job as a school administrator, no matter what school it is, Christian or not Christian, you have the stress, which leads to, usually sitting at a desk, high stress, you're not eating right, high blood pressure, all these other things that as you take, because as a school administration, any kind of way, you're the shock absorber. You hear all the crap, you hear all the mad people. No one calls the principal because they're happy. No one calls the principal because everything went right. I get all the calls from every part of school that are always bad. And so I was taking that in ways that were unhealthy, and I struggled with depression myself. Not like a clinical depression. It wasn't diagnosed, but my wife would tell you, came home every day and slept.
Yeah.
And I was missing my family. I was missing her. What was not in a good place physically, both my weight and my blood, everything, all the tests were like, well, this isn't quite right. This isn't quite right. And so I realized that I was not managing things well, both for my wife, my kids, and for God. And so I had to just start looking from the ground up and make some changes.
And you started going toward wellness and thinking about that in a different way.
Right. And small steps. I realized I'm not going to do it all one day. Just some small steps. I can do a stinking 7-minute yoga video. I'm going to feel stupid. I'm going to look dumb. I'm going to fall over, probably have bruises, but I can do 7 minutes, and then the 7 minutes can become 10, and I can find some things to do that are healthy. I can find other ways that are positive to deal with some of the stuff that's there in my life naturally. All of us have negatives. All of us have hard times. All of us have frustrations, and we all have pain. And so I think we have resources where we can respond the right way, or we can just kind of eat it, and try to self-soothe with things that aren't healthy. And then we end up hurting other people and ourselves. So
so you got to take care of yourself before you can take care of others. I love that. So we're at the part of the show, I call it shot for shot. I don't have any liquor right now, but you can we get to ask each other any random question related to this or not, related to this topic or not. Do you want to go first? I'll go first.
You go first. I've talked a lot. You go first.
All right. So Indiana, right?
Yeah.
Did you watch the Jordan documentary?
Yes, sir.
All right. So let's just take it. What do you think could have been the missing piece to give the Pacers an opportunity to be NBA champions? And why do you think they never did it themselves? So that's my question.
Now, Phil, this is a whole other episode, pal.
Yeah.
I love basketball. I love Indiana basketball.
I know you do. So we'll do a follow up, but I just want to hear a little bit of why.
Okay, so when you look at Michael Jordan and you look at LeBron James, they are always going to make the whole team more successful. But every now and again, they get that mix of people that they not only can make them a little more successful, they can take and win championships. So that was totally Michael Jordan. Reggie Miller was one of those types of guys. He was one of those types of guys, but Indiana never made the investment to get the other right players, in my opinion. They just never stepped up and brought in just the right mix.
And I'm okay. I know we can go on a full episode about this because that's
right,
it.
We can.
But Mark Jackson, who else? I mean, those are great players. Mark Jackson, Reggie Miller. Come on, give me some more people.
Oh goodness, they had that big white guy there for a while. They had
not Rick Smits, right? You're talking about him?
No, was it Smits or I think it was Smits.
I think it was Rick Smits. Whatever, but you're right. That's kind of bad where I can only think of Mark Jackson.
Right. No, there was more than that.
There was more than that.
They had the guy that went to San Antonio.
They didn't have Chris Mullin at that time.
No, Pacers never had Chris Mullin.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So what am I thinking?
No, but they. I just feel like they lacked the prestige, the power, the money of the big markets of
There you go.
Chicago and LA
Yeah.
and New York.
Yep.
But man, they were so close. And Reggie
That's what I'm saying. They were so close.
Reggie had the mindset that was infectious to the rest of the team, and
Mm-hmm.
he took them to these levels. But you know, but again, you need to develop that team and stay injury free, and have guys, because it isn't just talent; it's how they fit.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And that's what Indiana always lacked. The Bulls found the fit, you know, and they were able to. And Golden State found the fit, you know, and Indiana just never found it, and it stinks because I love basketball there, but they've never been able to find that combination. And now they're always trying to find it on the cheap, and they're not going to be able to do it. So,
yeah. All right, your question for me.
Oh man. Oh, this is a tough one. There's so many things I'd like to ask you, both about sports and your kids. Where is, so most of the time our strength is our weakness. They're like double sides of the same coin. How do you see that in your parenting with your child? Like, what would be your strength as a parent, and is that also kind of a weakness?
Okay, there you go. That was easy. I pretty figured out. So I don't know if the pendulum swing way too much, but I'm pretty flexible. I'm pretty on the cuff. I'm pretty spontaneous. Also not too strict. And so in the positive,
your dad was pretty strict.
I think that's why I swung a lot the other way.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'm like also like, so let me think. So for instance, if something happened, we got to rip and run and just do something random, I'm down, all that stuff. But I've just been so bad at routines. And I would say if I didn't have my wife, there would be like no standard bedtime. Probably no milk, you know, like the way they want milk. I'm just saying, like, they want pajamas. They have this like they have this thing they have to do, these routines. Most of those routines have been inputted because of my wife, and now I even fit in line with that. But when it's days with just me and the boys, I mean, they might have pajamas on all day, or wearing Crocs, or we just eating donuts on the fly, or but we're like, but you know, we're moving, we're doing stuff. So I would say but on the flip side, and my wife would say probably it's my positive, is I am flexible, where I can only just I'm like, it's not that serious. We can chill. It's all good. You know, like that kind of thing. So it is appreciated in good moments, but I can see it flipping way too much. So it like came to my head instantly. It was my flexibility. It could be
that's good.
It could be a gift and a curse.
Yeah, that's great.
Ask Marcus. I'll just sometimes roll up. I was like, I'm outside your house with the kids. Like, he's like, what? I just drove around and just ended up at Marcus's house. And he's like, yo, he's like, Phil, you wild, man. I thought we brought you some donuts. I'm like, what? I brought him some donuts. He's like, yo, you're wild. And so some people are more structured, but
I think that's great. What you have to be careful is because you don't do it that often with the kids and the donuts, you're going to be the good daddy versus mom that keeps the routine. And that happened in my home. There were times that kids would come to me with a request, and I'm like you, oh yeah, sure, we can do that. And mom had been saying no all day. Yeah. And then dad comes home and now it's a yes. And I just made her the bad guy.
Or also just with the nap thing, like not sticking to a schedule, and then they turned up all night and then they wake up the next day and they're crabby. So I kind of set us all up for a kind of a tough day. So I'm trying to work on it and really be strict about naps and strict about this and that, and, not too much screen time, and not be as, still be flexible, but also just try to adhere to some routine, because it doesn't just make my life better. It makes my wife better. Life's easier. It makes our parenting easier. It makes
and if you have a structure for your kids will learn how to structure things themselves. That's really the key.
Well, get there.
They will be able to, and everyone has to be able to structure things. Just like I've got to be able to turn on the stinking yoga video. My parents put structure in my life, and so when push comes to shove, yes, I can structure my life. Yes, I can organize things better, and I can live a better life because my parents taught me how to structure things. So it's important.
Well, that was a good question. We definitely got to do another one. Maybe I can get to Zoom and just do random. When the basketball season comes up, we'll just do a bonus episode just talking about basketball. Hopefully, we do have an NBA season this year, or college basketball. I don't care, just some kind of sport.
Well, I'm out here on the West Coast now. So I'm seeing UCLA games all the time. We had Evan Mobley at our school, who was one of the number one recruits. He's going to USC. He's a 7-foot guy, and it'll be kind of fun. So, see, I have a unique basketball perspective now that I'm out here on the West Coast, but I still like my Indiana roots. I do.
So. Shooters.
Shooters.
The shooters.
Yeah, and I get kind of, it kind of honks me off when people miss free throws. It just does.
Yeah.
Why do you miss a free throw? It's a free throw.
It's free.
Now I can understand. I can understand Shaq, because it's like you and me holding like a grapefruit trying to shoot it. So I'll give him a little grace.
Yeah, because remember
he cares.
He tried his hardest to have the fingers. Here's just his hands was.
He did. yeah. And I could, if I had to shoot grapefruits all day, I'm not sure I'd ever get good at that. But still, most people. Yeah. So yeah, those things, and I love good defense. I love watching teams. That's why I love those Bulls. I was never a genuine Bulls fan because I was Pacers,
Mm-hmm.
But the way they played defense won me over. Pippen and Jordan were defenders, man. They knew how to play defense. So that was fun.
All right, well, this is a great episode. We definitely got to do it again. I really enjoyed this. I learned something, and also I think we just kind of dived into the normal common man's thoughts on positivity, man, and well-being. Like, obviously we kind of threw in some tips in there and just our mindsets, but I always appreciate that. And it's crazy because we have so much in common. Who knew that we both be history majors or history people and bagging groceries? Who knows? We could.
That's kind of crazy.
That's weird. And so that's
all.
all.
I do want to throw. I want to throw one thing out to people. If I've had this on my list. I'm going to say one thing.
Mm-hmm.
One of the biggest things that's helped me in my life as a leader is this Atlanta preacher guy called Andy Stanley. He does a leadership series, and you'll find it on YouTube. Probably some of the best leadership material that I've ever seen, and I'm learning from him. And the leadership piece is kind of separate. He also does sermon series on lots of things. He's certainly a preacher, but he's kind of geared his work toward people that are unchurched, maybe coming from a non-Christian background, and he wants them to get whatever they can get out of this too. So his leadership stuff is some of the best that you'll see online. And it's really helped me a lot. So,
well, we'll definitely put that in the show notes. So obviously you kind of led into the next part about this preacher, but also I want you to do the stage is set, the floor is yours. Shout outs and plugs. So shout out whoever you want to shout out and plug, such as your man that you already plugged him. But anything else you want to plug, so that we put that in the show notes and people can follow up on those resources.
Yeah, well, again, thank you. I jumped ahead of you. Sorry, I shouldn't have done that. I should have stuck to the structure.
You're fast. You like bagging groceries.
Yeah, right, man. So, no, I think Andy Stanley's work on leadership and on lots of other things is some of the best you'll see. And he's even got a whole thing on politics, Christianity, politics. I think it's some of the best you'll see. I've mentioned Adrian a couple times. I so admire that guy and his work. And I just, every chance I get, I kind of point. Now, again, I'm out here in California, and he's working in a very deliberately local way in D.C., and I think it's awesome. But his work at Art of Noise, giving a place for art for the African-American community there in D.C., and just a place. It's great, I have a dear friend that's influenced me deeply, and it's from Indy, and his name is Phil Nykirk. And his assistant principal, I actually hired when I was there. Her name is Kirsten Gibbs. She's married, and she got married like right after I left. I can't remember her married name now, which kills me. I should know that. But those two, we worked together as a team for 3.5 years. And I'll tell you, there is nothing like having that team that fits together. I love those people, and not in Indianapolis anymore, moved on from there. But I do love those people there dearly, and love what they're trying to do in that school and how they're trying to affect Indy the right way. My brother-in-law also he wrote a book last year, and again, his name's Mark. He wrote a book called Dark Clouds, Deep Mercy, and it was the number one selling book last year, Christian book last year, and it's all about how to manage hard times, and how to deal with grief and how to deal with pain, and there's a lot of resource there. It's called Dark Clouds, Deep Mercy. He wrote another book because he's in Indy, and Indy is one of the most racially divided towns in the country. His church sees it firsthand, and he's got another book coming out. They pushed up the release date because of George Floyd, and it's called Weep. It's called Weep With Me, and it's a book all about racial reconciliation. And I can't wait to get my hands on it. But I want to give a plug out to that here because I feel like he's a white pastor who has a heart to get this right, and I love that because that's where my heart is. And he does the work, he does the research and the study, he digs into the scriptures, and he believes with all of his heart that Jesus Christ does not want us to treat each other this way. It's not right. And so he feels like there's a place for the community, the white community, to learn how to weep with those that weep, to learn how to lament when George Floyd is killed, and to not clam up and get defensive and throw stones, but how do we look at the past that's so filled with garbage and horrible things, weep over that, lament over that, and then build something positive from there. So I'm looking forward to reading that book.
Excellent. Well, I'm definitely going to check out all those and put all those in the show notes. But maybe, follow up. I know you sent some videos. I did watch one of his sermons. It was wonderful. He also did a lot of research, historical context research.
Yes.
And so
that's his gift.
He brings it. He doesn't just talk about hypotheticals. He actually says, put yourself in this time, and he deeps into what historically the times look like. And so it was well done. I got to definitely go back and visit that video.
Again, College Park Church is one that was historically a Baptist church, primarily white, north side of Indy, and so it's become much more diverse in a very positive way. But as he has specifically talked about racial reconciliation, as he has taken his people from his church on tours to see things in the South that are landmarks of the civil rights movement, he's taken it on the chin. People have left his church. People have left his church because they don't want that on their Sunday morning. But he keeps bringing it the right way, in a balanced way, and in a way that I think is healthy. And so he's willing. I mean, I appreciate his stance for those things that are right in that area, because it'd be easy just to preach what people want to hear and make a lot of money doing that. It'd be easy to do that. But he really is teaching what he believes God wants people to hear in terms of truth and right and wrong. So anyway.
Well, shout out to him. We're going to put him in the show notes and put all the books. And we're also going to put all the other resources, especially Art of Noise. Shout out to Adrian. I'm still ashamed that I haven't gone in there, but I need to.
I've been there. It's cool.
I know. I got to get in. I don't even go into DC myself. I feel like it's faraway land from Burke, Virginia. But,
are you kidding me?
No, man. I don't go in that city. I'm too suburban, man. I live out here. I'm out here in the burbs.
Well, I'm in California. What can I say?
So thank you so much, Mr. Stayton. It's been
great. It's an honor. It's an honor.
We're going to have you again. Thank you so much. Please listen to this episode, family and friends. Please share it. Please comment. Please just interact with us. Please follow up with Jerry if you want to. And if you're interested, leave comments. You can leave a voicemail, 571-336-6560. That's 571-336-6560. Please continue to be kind to each other. Please practice a positive mindset and just take care and love one another. That's all we can do, right?
That's right.
Thank you for listening to Positive Philter, a podcast that focuses on family, friends, career, with a little self-help along the way. If you enjoyed this podcast, please share it with your family and friends, and like the Facebook page, Spreading Positivity Movement. Thanks for listening.